What's up, everyone? Welcome into the Dairyland Drive. On today's episode, we're going to break down the entire 2025 NFL Draft from the Packers' perspective, what we thought of what Goody, LaFleur, and the Packers front office did at the draft that they hosted in Green Bay for those 3 days. Colin Talbert, as always, with Mike Schneider, Riley Ashe. Mike, you were at the draft. Pretty sweet atmosphere. I guess just what was your experience like there on Thursday for round one from start to finish?
Yeah, Thursday was a good time. Got down to the parking lot about noon and tailgated till, 5:30, 6 o'clock. Vibes were up. It was a good time. Saw your crew there and tailgated with you guys for a while. Being inside, the experience was electric. There's so many people, probably 90% Packers fans, would you say?
Oh, definitely.
Something like that. It was a ton. The Packers pick, which we'll get to, Matthew Golden, when that was announced, that was absolutely electric. One quick other highlight of the night was it was reported there was only one arrest that first night out of like 205,000 people. So quick story, after the last pick was made, we walked back to our parking spot behind Anduzzi's there, and we're just sitting around having another drink or two before we head out, and this dude just comes sprinting by, like full speed, dead sprint. We thought maybe it's just some dude just like, I don't know, being an idiot or whatever. But right after him, like 3 guys in Doozy's bouncer shirts and like 3 more in black security shirts come chasing him. And right in front of where we parked, there's like this 10-foot chain link fence. And you could hear him try to scale the fence, and obviously it didn't work. And like 6 stalls down was this Jeep. And he doubled back around this Jeep, and someone in the security just grabs him by the shirt and just throws him down. All his shit goes flying. They take him down, put him on his stomach, throw on the bracelets. Excuse me. So a little cheap entertainment afterward. Never really found out what happened, but something fun to see afterward, I guess.
Good way to wrap up the first round, and just kind of summed up the whole first round of just pure chaos. So maybe the writing on the wall there, the pure chaos to end the night for you. But yeah, what a cool atmosphere it was. I mean, you had all the TV, like the TV stages set up there in the back. But yeah, just going back and just like watching all of the just footage, I guess, of especially the first round when Murphy announced the pick, all the Go Pack Go chants, Matthew Golden doing his slow walk out to the stage. Yes, he could have probably went to the mic and maybe done a little bit better than give me a Green Bay on 3. If he would have said give me a Go Pack Go on 3, I think that would have been the the icing on the cake. But no, still a pretty cool experience. So Riley, how was it watching at home from you in the comfort of your comfy clothes, I guess, on the TV?
A little bit jealous I wasn't there. It just looked fucking absolutely insane though, just a mass of people. So yeah, jealous. At the same time, I don't know how much I would have enjoyed the chaos, but I'm sure I could have had a good time if I did go.
All right, well, let's jump right into it. Yeah, really cool experience. I think what they said about 600,000 people total is what they estimated for all 3 days, which I think would match down in Nashville. So pretty impressive for all the speculation I know of. Green Bay couldn't do it. There's no way they could hold that many people. There's no way with the space. I think they did a heck of a job, and just with the layout and the flow of everything, and turned out to be pretty successful, I think. So Mark Murphy, tipped the cap to him. Didn't know what to expect. Definitely give him an A for that one. But something that also didn't go as expected, or maybe exactly how we expected, was our first round mock draft on last week's show. Just want to bring up the statistics because it started off really well, and then the wheels fell off. The Dairyland Drive boys, along with Diesel, our special guest, we started 7 for 7. I thought we maybe had something cooking, and then shit went south. We went 1 for our next 25. So we ended 8 for 32, a solid 25% which is probably right on par with a lot of experts because that was pure chaos in the teens and the 20s. Um, yeah, just pure chaos, and we'll get right into it. The Packers' first round pick. We'll kind of recap the entire draft and get some thoughts here after we talk the Packers, but it finally happened. First time since 2002. Javon Walker, you can breathe easy. Your name will not keep getting brought up every single year at the draft of the Packers not going wide receiver. Like I said, Mark Murphy started the chant. They go Matthew Golden from Texas, the speedster, 4.29 40, fastest wide receiver at the combine. Second fastest player overall behind Maxwell Harrison. So the field stretcher. But he's a little bit more than that. So just going to kind of open it up to you, I guess. First, your reaction that, one, they freaking finally picked a wide receiver. They ended the drought. And two, it was kind of almost the best player available. Obviously, the consensus, maybe top two receivers, or a lot of people's top two receivers were off the board at that point. But just your overall thoughts. And we'll start with Riley sitting at home. What were you thinking when Matthew Golden's name was called?
Honestly, I mean, just how the draft played out with the guys that we thought, and just we've talked about for weeks, comments that Goody's made about like their defensive end group, and kind of whether we thought they should have went that way or not sooner. But we kind of he thought they were fine there. So in my head, going in with how it played out, it's like, all right, they're going corner or they're going receiver. Oh, the little bit of surprise is how, I mean, we'll talk about as we go. They didn't really fucking do anything with the corner room except till late. So slight surprise they went Matthew Golden, like you said. Yeah, he's more of just a 4.29 guy. I mean, that's not even what he was at Texas. I think the Packers fell in love with his hands. He's got a lot of he looks like Romeo Dobbs with his catches he does. It's all hands, no body, really shifty. So it'll be really interesting to see where they think he's gonna play. I mean, is he going to be an X and he's just taking over for Romeo Dobbs, or is he going to play that Z spot and just plug in for this year? Because obviously Watson's going to be out for at least half the season. But yeah, he can do a little bit of everything. He can play in the slot. He's obviously a burner. He can take the top off if he needs to, but he's definitely more of an all around receiver with how crisp his routes are. And then I already said his hands. So I would say with just how it played out, medium surprise, just because they never freaking do it. But with how it played out, I think it was just setting up that way.
Yeah, I was super surprised, honestly. There were a few prospects that I felt like maybe they had their eye on. Shamar Stewart, Mecca Ibuka, Gray Zabel, Derek Harmon, Walter Nolan. All those guys had been taken by that point. So at that point, when it came to them, I truly had no idea where they were going to go. I thought maybe corner was in play, like Riley said, or maybe offensive line, just because that would be totally something Packers would do if they'd find someone that they really liked and go for them. But I think this shows that we really have no idea ultimately like what they're thinking, what their draft board looks like. We can try to spin it however many different ways we want, but at the end of the day, we really don't know. I am glad that they went golden and ended that 23-year drought. I think the picks of Golden and Savion Williams, which we'll get to in a bit here, I think it's a little bit of putting the current wide receivers on notice. Saying that, last year in particular, performance wasn't good enough and we'll bring in more competition. And if you aren't up for it, then these guys are going to come in and take your reps from you.
Yeah, absolutely. And Goody and LaFleur especially, they love competition at each position group. So I'm sure that had to be discussed. And yeah, I think it was interesting of just how it did play out, because there really wasn't big runs in the first round of like position players. We'll talk about quarterback, I know, towards the end here, of just how interesting and how crazy I think that all played out. Wasn't really any big runs on position groups. But I would have to think, and again, like Mike said, we don't know Goody's board. I would have to think a lot of those guys that he had towards the top were probably gone by then. I know Will Johnson was a name that we mentioned, and he dropped all the way to the second round. So if something was up with his physical or his health, and Packers just didn't like where he was at, maybe a couple other players that you could look at on the defensive side of the ball, but yeah, I mean, it was funny, like going back and listening to our offensive like prospect preview. We barely even touched on Matthew Golden because we didn't think that was like a realistic thing. Like Tet McMillan and sorry, he doesn't like to be called Tet McMillan. We gotta be T Mac. Maybe one of the last times we'll mention his name. T Mac and Matthew Golden, we kind of just like graze by because we're just like, oh, those guys will be gone. I don't think those are realistic options. We won't talk to them. We'll mention them, and it's interesting to know like where Matthew Golden did actually fall on their board, if he was towards the top or if it was one of those, they didn't want to reach maybe at the defensive side and didn't truly love anyone on that side of the ball at that point and thought Golden was just the best player available. And, where LaFleur could maybe see him fitting in the offense. He's 21 years old. He's had some college production. I think he fits into the offense next year. But yeah, even in the future, I mean, Riley talked a little bit earlier, like the dude can catch the ball. Like he's got great hands. And I think he's kind of at all three levels. And I think a lot of people are going to pay attention to his speed, but he's an excellent route runner. He's like good underneath. And he's just got that little burst. And I think the yak is really good. You go back to like some of his Houston highlights too before he went to Texas. So I think it's just like a piece that LaFleur can plug into it. But I thought maybe the more interesting one, or just jump right into it too, and you can keep touching on Matthew Golden if you want, is them doubling up. I know Goody has had a history of doubling up at positions of need. I was more shocked that they come back in round 3 and take Savion Williams, the wide receiver from TCU, bigger bodied. It's the first time that they have taken 2 receivers in the first 3 rounds. We'll get to the second round pick here in a little bit, but this is just kind of keeping in that wide receiver room. Were you more surprised? We'll start with you, Mike, that they took Savion Williams in day 2, maybe compared to Matthew Golden, or just kind of surprised that they doubled up overall? I guess just what were your thoughts when you, at that point, I guess were either listening on the radio or watching, from your TV when you heard Savion Williams called there in the 3rd round?
I think the shock factor had kind of, what am I trying to say? It had kind of worn off by then, knowing that they already taken Matthew Golden, so the shock factor of taking a wide receiver had worn off. So not super surprised, I guess, by the Savion Williams picks, or just kind of intrigued, I guess, because I know Riley had talked about him in a couple of episodes. Maybe being a sleeper candidate or one of his players that he really liked. But I mean, they've talked about how he's shown versatility and he can be utilized in multiple ways. One thing I read about him is he has an ability for a lot of yards after catch. He's big, physical, like 6'4", 220, so just a big wide receiver. People have compared him to Deebo Samuel in that way. With his ability to be multiple, I kind of wonder if maybe they try to take some of those reps from Jaden Reed, maybe doing some of the kind of gadget stuff that he's done, or if they mix them both up, or I don't know, just kind of intrigued to see what his role is going to be going forward.
Yeah, obviously I've been high on him for a month now, but he just fits what the Packers do with RAS. He's a freak athlete size, but I'll be intrigued to see kind of how Mike just touched on. I'll be intrigued to see is he actually truly a wide receiver in their eyes, or is he going to be literally the 3rd running back and a receiver so they don't have to keep an extra guy in the roster for game days, because he literally had 50 carries from the running back spot last year. He can do it all. So, yeah, and going back to I don't know. I think I kind of saw this coming. I don't think they're happy with Christian Watson's injuries. I think they're done with Romeo Doubs after the concussions and then the whatever happened early on in the season last year. So I don't even think it's taking notice to the wide receiver room. I think this is telling Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs, like, see ya, dudes. This is the last year. But yeah, just seeing what they do with Savion is going to be really interesting. I've going back to episode 1, I've talked about, can we please freaking play Jaden Reed at real receiver and not use him as a gadget guy? So being cautiously optimistic in my head, I'm hoping that he takes all this gadget shit that Jaden Reed does, Savion, and I'm hoping they put Jaden Reed out there, and because we got him for 2 more years with Golden, so Dontavian Wicks, I think that's the future, those 4. Um, so yeah, Golden, Reed, Dontavian Wicks are the 3 receivers. Savion's that joker guy. I think that's the future. So I think just that's what I'm. Could be completely wrong, but in my head and optimistically, if it all turns out that way, I think that's the best situation for the Packers going forward.
Maybe a little bit like Cordero Patterson-esque as well, of how he can kind of move all over. I know he's more of a running back now, but maybe in his early career when he was playing receiver, some of the return game, a bigger body. Yeah, I don't think a lot of pressure's on him either, because I don't think you expect him to go out there and be, your outside receiver on, early downs or certain sets. I think he's a very situational guy that you could have fun with, and bring in on certain instances, maybe heavy packages, with multiple tight ends on the field, or like Riley said, you can line up in the backfield on third down and be that, threat back behind there to give Josh Jacobs a little breather. Yeah, I mean, he has struggled with drops, but the interesting stat about him, he's never fumbled the football in his entire college career. So if you are going to use him all around the field, and a sure-handed, strong guy, I think that certainly helps out. But yeah, man, it's going to be interesting to kind of see how the wide receiver room plays out in like the next year or so. Because I do think this kind of is the end of the light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak, for Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs. I don't think now they're going to pay either of them. I think the intriguing part is Dontavian Wicks, of maybe this kind of lights a fire under him as well. A little bit of, he does have, a little bit of the competition behind him. And if he doesn't want to see, his snaps go down and the targets go down, catch the freaking football and get back to the rookie Dontavian Wicks that we saw, because I do think there's something there. And we've kind of talked about his kind of Devontae Adams-esque like game that he has, just with his release and just kind of how, natural and fluent he is with his body. So maybe him having a little competition in that room specifically will kind of raise his game. Because I do think if he takes a huge step, like, this receiving core can be pretty good overall as soon as this next year. And I would like to think if Romeo Doubs is on his final contract year, he's kind of putting an audition out there for other teams as well to get that next big payday. So, yeah, Riley.
I just want to just think about this. You got, I don't care, whatever 3 receivers you want to put out there. You got Tucker Kraft and a tight end, 11 personnel, and you put Savion in the backfield. Obviously, you have to keep 2 linebackers in because they can still run the ball, because Savion's got experience running the ball. Who are you going to have your safety cover, Savion or Tucker Kraft? Are you telling? And LaFleur better be able to figure out how to fucking take advantage of that, because there's no chance in hell a linebacker can cover Savion out of the backfield. And then if they decide to do a Tucker Kraft, there's no way a linebacker can cover him crossing the field with all those crossing routes he does. So I don't know. I think he's going to play running back more than anything. I think he's going to be that second guy. And I think he's going to be just an absolute just mismatch nightmare, running wheels out of the backfield. If they can get a linebacker on him, they're going to do what other teams do. They're going to motion him out, and he's just going to run a fly. It's just going to be simple stuff like that LaFleur is going to take advantage of with all the motions that he already does. So if Savion can mentally handle that and be able to motion or shift or whatever they do on LaFleur's offense, because it is pretty complex, I just think he's just an absolute nightmare. And at the same time, teams have to respect that he can also run the ball as well. You can't just go 6 DBs.
Real quick before we move on, I want to ask you this, Mike. What should a Packers fan expectations be for the first wide receiver drafted since 2002? So if you try to put realistic expectations as a fan for Matthew Golden, his rookie year, what would be a good year in your eyes for Matthew Golden? It doesn't have to be stats. I guess it just can kind of be overall in general. But now he's got the weight on his shoulders, the first time in 23 years of being that first wide receiver that everyone's been asking for. I'm sure he's going to have a lot of expectations from a certain group of Packer fans are going to expect, him to jump into that wide receiver one role instantly and just have a huge impact. But that's not really who he is, but he can still make a big impact. So as just from your perspective, what would be your realistic expectations for a year one rookie year from Golden?
Oh boy, that's such a broad question, Colin. I'm not even sure how to answer that. Statistically, what did Jaden Reed have as far as receptions his first year? He broke Shannon Sharp's rookie receptions record. I totally think that's a possibility, breaking that record, just with his talent. I would say anywhere from 800 to 1,000 yards, 7 touchdowns, I think is totally possible. I don't know. It's hard to quantify his presence helping to get other guys open, making them better. That's something that's hard to quantify, but if there's some way to measure that, I think that would be a good measuring stick for him, I guess, in his first year.
Yeah, 64 catches, 793 yards, 8 touchdowns. Jaden Reed his rookie year. So I think that's a pretty. That's what I was thinking too. I was thinking in the 50 to 60 catch, 750, 800 yard receiver. I think would be expectations, but also too, I think that the field stretcher, right, to keep the offense from being boring and just running in between the tackles and what we maybe saw in the Eagles. If he can kind of at least be that threat, I think that would have to be a big win from him. And yeah, if he has production as well, I think that would have to be a good rally. You have anything to add?
I just think his effectiveness is going to be how, we've talked about speed, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And the offense is always better when Christian Watson plays. It's just going to be how well can Matthew Golden beat man to man. His defenses are going to have to choose. Are they going to play too high and respect the Packers pass game? But if they do that, they've shown they're going to freaking give Josh Jacobs the ball 30 times. So if a team does play single high and plays man, one of these receivers has to beat man coverage at some point in time, which has been my gripe about Jaden Reed not playing outside. And Matthew Golden, that's going to be the biggest thing. Can he beat man-to-man coverage? Because teams are going to play one high against the Packers because they want to feed Josh Jacobs. So it's just going to be how well he can either just run by his guy or he's a great route runner. That's his thing. I think that's more than anything why they picked him, his hands and his route running, because they know they're going to get a shit ton of man-to-man coverage.
Yeah, like I said, he is only 21 years old still, so I think he also has that. What does Goody kind of maybe see year 2, year 3 of him of potentially making a jump? But I do think he can still make an impact year 1, and we'll see how LaFleur can use him. But round 2, going to backtrack a little bit. I think this was a mentality kind of pick of what you are going to see the Packers do this upcoming season. Aaron Banks that they just signed was about 325 pounds, their biggest offensive lineman, but it didn't last too long because they bring in an absolute mauler from NC State, Anthony Belton, 6'6", 336 pounds. In the second round, pick number 54. I know he played a lot of left tackle in college or made all his college starts at left tackle. But I think we all can maybe see him competing on the inside to just really potentially see guard, center, guard just be absolute massive guys that can, get some penetration and, open up some holes in there. Riley has mentioned multiple times of going young and going cheap at some of these potential spots on the offensive line at left tackle and potentially at guard. So I'll start with you, Riley, since this was kind of your theory. Is this basically kind of solve that, or is this basically what you think they're doing of drafting a guy like Anthony Belton? I know he has the size to play a tackle. I know some of his some of the things he needs to work on is his footwork and can it hold up as a pro on the outside. But to me, this screams as getting as big and as strong and as fierce there on the interior, and kind of going young at some of those spots that you mentioned here in the last couple weeks.
Yeah, initially it was kind of like when they did this, they drafted a lineman in the second round. It's like, okay, I'm not crazy. What I've been thinking kind of makes sense. But then when I don't even remember what front office person came out with their stupid press conference to do right after, and he specifically brought up the days of TJ Lang and Josh sitting at guards, bigger inside. Yes, sorry, Sean Ryan, you're fucking done. This right guard is Belton's job. This is not going to be a competition. That's what they're going to do. And then we've talked about Morgan's going to go back out to left tackle and see if he can beat out Walker and if it's close at all. But yeah, initially I was just like, okay, happy because this is kind of what I've been saying. And then after they had that little press conference, this might be my most like the best pick of the entire draft, in my opinion, because he's going to step in and he's going to be probably a 12-year starter right guard for the Packers. He's not going anywhere. He is a mauler. He's got a mean streak. He's 6'6", 335. They're just going to be absolutely massive inside, at guard, at least for the next 4 to 5 years. We'll see how center can how long that he stays there. Jenkins, I know he's getting older, so I don't know how long the Packers will keep him. But I think at guard, they're set for the next 4 or 5 years. And I think Belton at right guard is probably going to be there for about 10 years. So, yeah, after they said that, absolutely pumped, kind of played out exactly what I thought Goody and then would be thinking with just not wanting to pay Sean Ryan and they don't want to pay Rasheed Walker.
Yeah, Colin, you mentioned it right off the top there. Looking to get big and looking to get cheap. I had questioned about whether this dude would play guard or tackle, but I will take Riley's wisdom there and say that he'll probably play guard. I'll kind of lean on Riley there a little bit and what he has to say. So if anything, though, I mean, if he doesn't win that guard spot, at least they're adding depth to the line, which is something that they talked about at the end of last year, because we saw how the depth kind of, or lack thereof, kind of let them down in that playoff game against Philly. One thing I did see, at Belton's size was the question is whether he could play guard or not, and people questioning whether guys at that size can play guard just because it's harder for them to bend and get leverage. But just for reference, I went back and looked at the Philadelphia Eagles offensive line, and one of their guards, Landon Dickerson, he's 6'6", 332. So pretty much the same size as Belton, and he's one of the best guards in the league. So I think if he eventually wins that job, yeah, he'll be a mauler and just destroy people on the line.
Yeah, and they had to really like them because I think the interesting thing here for me too is what they did have some players on the board that could maybe fit some needs on the defensive side of the ball. I know we've talked about Mike Green, Trey Amos, who the Packers have been linked to a little bit. So corner and edge and, a couple of those defensive tackles, one of, or a few of the, 30 or 40 that got drafted. So they must really like him and see a pretty clear vision for him if that was the direction they went. So yeah, I think, excuse me, I think at the very worst, like Mike said, if Sean Ryan loses the right guard spot, Rasheed Walker loses the left tackle spot, those are your backup offensive linemen going into the season. I think you'd have to feel pretty good about that. Because like you said, as much as they want to run the ball, as much as the offensive line was beat up at times last year, those were some pretty glaring weaknesses and holes of guys that we threw in there at times last year and last season. So if those are your 6th and 7th linemen and Walker can swing and play both tackles, or Sean Ryan on filling in that center at either guards, have to feel pretty good of kind of the mentality. Like I said, I think this is a mentality pick. I think you're going to see a heavy dose of 2 tight end sets, maybe some 3 tight end sets, a lot of Josh Jacobs of 25 to 30 times a game, hopefully mirroring and marrying that a little bit more between the run and the pass, and the creativity. So I don't think it's very shy at all. What Goody and LaFleur want to do is kind of win the line of scrimmage, especially on that side of the ball, for next year and kind of play off that. So very interesting. Day 1, day 2, all offensive prospects, which is what everyone predicted. We joked a little bit before the show recording this. I don't think anyone predicted that. A lot of the needs were on the defensive side of the ball. But that's where they went day 3. So what I'm going to do here, I'm just going to run through all of their day 3 picks. If you guys want to pick a specific player that stood out to you, or if you want to talk about all of them a little bit, I'll kind of leave the door open for you. But 4th round, they went on the defensive line, Barron Sorrell from Texas, 6'4", 260 pounds, guy, explosive first step. We'll go 5th round. Colin Oliver. I know he's been labeled as just a designated pass rusher. He's kind of plays that hybrid and, has played on the edge and played an off the ball linebacker. He's from Oklahoma State. 6th round, they get a defensive tackle, Warren Brinson from Georgia. Yes, another Georgia guy, and that's going to be a common theme, even to the undrafted free agent players as well. 7th round, 2 picks there. Micah Robinson, their first corner from Tulane, 5'11", 190. And then the final pick for the Packers, another offensive lineman, a tackle, John Williams from Cincinnati. So addressing some needs, couple on the defensive line, a linebacker, and then your bruiser, Warren Brinson, the run stuffer. I guess just from day 3, and we can start with you, Mike. Were you excited about any of these picks more than other, or what did you kind of think of Goody's approach there from day 3 of mainly going defense after focusing on offense those first 2 days?
So I was on my drive back to La Crosse here during round 3. So I didn't really get to see much what was going on. But after seeing the clip of Barron Sorrell after I got home, that got me pretty fired up about him. Seeing that he stayed in the green room until his name was called, and it just happened to be the hometown team that was hosting the draft. And then just seeing his press conference afterward, like how emotional and just so grateful that he was to be selected, really makes me think that he is going to work his ass off every day. He's gonna make the most out of himself. Like this dude's gonna be so motivated. Whether that pans out or not, whether he turns into a star or not, I'm excited for this dude. I mean, he just seems like someone who's just gonna try to kick everyone's ass every day in practice. He's gonna make the most of every rep he gets in a game. So I'm really pumped about what Barron Sorrell could be.
Yeah, I don't really have anybody specific. I think it's just a big deal and just big for the rooms that they doubled up on D end and then didn't draft another defensive tackle. But we'll talk about their undrafted guys. They kind of doubled up on defensive tackle. But yeah, I think Sorrell slides in immediately as that number 4, the second unit. He'll be in there. He'll play 20 snaps a game probably. He's just a do it all. Run, pass, defense, defensive end, bigger body. And then Colin Oliver, I think maybe he can be the 5th guy, pass rusher, but I think he's going to dress every game. He is a stud on special teams. Brinson just gives depth. We've talked about they only have 4 true guys, and their backups are kind of coming up on contract years. With Brinson and then the undrafted guy, Nazir Stackhouse, they're both out of Georgia. I think it'll be interesting to see if both of those guys make the team or one of them, or maybe they'll end up being the 3rd and 4th guy. I don't know. Just creates a lot of competition, kind of like we've talked about in both the rooms, which they needed.
Yeah, it was interesting going back to Colin Oliver. First name, fantastic, by the way. Spelled the same way. 2 L's, not a crazy person with 1 L, but a designated pass rusher. I mean, they mentioned that right away, like on the draft broadcast as well. And he's a little smaller, but could definitely be a situational guy at times. But I don't think you just bring him off the edge. I think you could maybe have like certain packages from him and be creative with him too. Like I said, it's not going to be like 30 snaps a game, but even a few and some situational stuff. I think you could maybe see him out there as well. And then, yeah, we'll see. Will John Williams be one of the strike gold late round flyer offensive linemen that's pretty athletic, 6'5", 310? Can he bulk up, maybe be on the practice squad for a year, see if you can get anything out of him, depth, if a Rasheed Walker leaves after this next year. Like I said, I think both of those 7th round pick guys are. Micah Robinson maybe could be a special teams guy. Pretty raw, decent tackler, decent ball skills. So yeah, we can kind of see if some of those guys could turn into special teams guy. Mike, did you have something to add?
Yeah, just a question for either or both of you. So with them only drafting the one interior defensive lineman in Warren Brinson, we've talked about before how it's very possible that 3 of these guys currently on the roster very well may not be back next year. Colby Wood and Carl Brooks and possibly Kenny Clark. With them only going one interior lineman, do you think it's possible Goody's either not concerned about the D-line depth after this year and he'll just worry about it next year when it rolls around? Or do you think there's maybe already plans in place to extend a couple of them, Woden or Brooks, or any thoughts on that?
I could see, I don't know, I could see them extending Brooks just because of how good he is on special teams and he's made plays as a pass rusher. I'll make a state. I mean, I think I'll be shocked if Colby Wooden even makes a team this year. I think Brinson's going to take that 4th spot. I'm not so sure Nazir Stackhouse isn't the 5th guy. He's the true run stopper. They specifically brought up replacing Slayton in one of their press conferences, and Stackhouse is that guy. He's 325. He's the 3-year starter. Brinson's not. I don't know why. I don't know how people get it. I don't get it. But if you watch, like I don't even know who Warren Brinson is. I watch a bunch of Georgia football. I love the SEC. I know who Nazir Stackhouse is. He's a stud. He's a dude. I don't even know who Warren Brinson is. I kind of remember him now going back and watching his highlights, but I would be shocked if Kobe wouldn't even makes the roster. I just don't think he's done enough. I think Carl Brooks has. He's good in special teams. He's an insane pass rusher when he's fresh and he comes in on 3rd down situations. But I think it's a world where Warren Brinson and Nazir Stackhouse are that 4th and 5th guy, and they're the 5 defensive tackles that make the team this year. And depending on how they develop, this might be, I could see them after this next year moving on from Kenny Clark too. Just depending if he bounces back or if the trend continues and he has the worst year again of his career like he did last year. I think this might be the last year of Kenny Clark as well.
Yeah, I agree, and then was going to bring up Nazir Stackhouse as well because I think he's got a pretty good shot at making the roster. I think he was pretty highly coveted after he didn't get drafted because, even the Athletics, Dane Brugler had him as a higher prospect than Warren Brinson. So you're not too far-fetched to think that, Riley. And I think both ESPN and PFF had him as like a top 215 prospect. So a lot of people expected him to get drafted in even, 6 rounds, 7 rounds, where I think it was a shocker that he didn't get drafted. And I do think there is a specific role for him. And if you are 6'3" and 327, you can still make some money in the NFL. But yeah, we'll stay right on that undrafted free agents train. Another guy I know you're probably going to want to talk about. So I'll let you kind of get to that. The one that was interesting to me, I don't think he'll make the roster, maybe a practice squad, just because I covered him way back in the day in Eau Claire, was Tyler Cooper, the guard from Minnesota. He played at St. Croix Falls High School, was really good in high school, really, really big and just that wide base. And I think it's just kind of cool to see the full circle of him getting the shot in the NFL. Of course, hated the college he played at for the Gophers. I think we all can agree that. Maybe Mike more than others, but maybe a practice squad guy. We'll see. But like I said, pretty athletic and I think was a 2-year, 3-year starter at Minnesota, all Big Ten. I will mention a couple of those years. So will be really cool to see how that kind of plays out. And then another guy, I think a UW lacrosse guy I saw got a rookie tryouts this week. Maybe Mike can talk a little bit about that. So that's always cool to see the old alma mater in D3 get some love in the NFL. And even if it's just a rookie tryout, that's a pretty big deal for a Division III school. And then last one I wanted to, I'm not going to say his name right. Riley probably knows him watching the SEC. Is it Jamon Dumas-Johnson from Kentucky? But before Kentucky, he was shocker at Georgia for 3 seasons. So another Georgia guy. ESPN has him as a top 220 prospect. So both him and Nazir Stackhouse were projected to get drafted. Neither of them did. The Packers got both of them. I think they both have a pretty decent shot at making the roster, but I will open up to you guys. Any other undrafted free agents, or Mike, if you wanted to touch a little bit on our UWL guys, Jack Stutter, getting the rookie tryout.
Yeah, shout out to Jack Studer, two-time All-American at UW Lacrosse. Let's see, UWL's all-time leader in touchdown receptions and receiving yards, second in career receptions, and he was also a semifinalist for the Gagliardi Trophy. That's the trophy that goes to the top player in the nation in D3. So kid's absolutely talented. I've seen him play a couple games, make some wild catches. Just good for him. I hope he has an awesome experience with the Packers at rookie minicamp. Hope it all goes well for him and he can make a name for himself. So shout out to Jack Studer.
Yeah, I mean, my only other one I'd add, I'll talk about him and Dumas Johnson first. Yeah, he definitely. I mean, he plays. He's good. Very athletic. Fits what the Packers like to do. So I mean, he could. We'll see how high they are on Hopper. We've talked about him before. I could see Dumas Johnson sliding in as maybe that fifth guy if they want to keep a fifth guy. And he beats out Hopper. I don't know. The other one I'll talk about is Amar Johnson, the running back out of South Dakota State. They've obviously hit with Tucker Kraft, but just I know him. My brother played against him. FCS at Illinois State. He's from South Dakota State. So 5'10", 205, not huge. His thing was his long speed. And if you watch his highlights, his vision, his tackle breaking is all insane, but he would always it seemed like he was one step short. And he shows up in his pro day and runs a freaking 4.39. So he carried the ball 30 times a game. So I'm going to say he was just dead ass tired is why he got caught as many times as he did. But this dude last year, I mean, he had 1,200 yards last year, 14 touchdowns, also had 30 receptions. So he can do it all. In his career, he's literally has 32, almost 3,200 rushing yards total. He's got 30 total touchdowns. Like, he just is production. So I don't know if he can make the team, but I think he's definitely going to be the guy that makes the practice squad. Do not be surprised if he ends up being somehow the third running back. I don't know. We'll see what they do. He is a stud. Like he just has vision. He fits what the Packers like to do. He can do it all. So yeah, I think there's 3 or 4 undrafted guys, and the Packers are kind of known for at least keeping one a year. But I think there's 3 or 4 this year. I think this is their best undrafted class they've had in a while.
Yeah, I think when you look at it as a whole now, too, with the 8 guys they drafted and some of these top undrafted free agents, I think the player talent, just like the entire pool, pretty impressive. So before we move on to the entire draft as a whole, the first round, maybe big winners, big losers, and surprises, any final thoughts just looking at what Goody and LaFleur did? If not, we can move on. But anybody have any final comments on just this overall draft class and the 8 players from this past weekend?
Just a little surprised that they didn't draft a quarterback. Goody's talked about in the past how he wants to continue or start up the trend again of drafting a quarterback every year to develop. Malik Willis is on his last year of his contract. Sean Clifford isn't really anything to write home about. He seems like a perpetual practice squad or third string guy. Thought maybe they'd try to swing a late round pick for another quarterback that they could maybe develop, but perhaps the board just didn't shake out the way that they wanted to, and quarterback wasn't there this year.
For me, this is the most pumped I've been for training camp coming up, and the first week of August when I always go up, dead week for Illinois sports down here, so I always go up the first week of August. This is the most pumped for training camp I've been. Just the O-line competition, just to watch it play out. Just see what they're going to do with the wide receiver room, what they're going to do with Savion. I mean, what are they going to do with Jair? That's still a question of the summer that we're probably going to keep talking about for a couple of months. So I just think there's a bunch of questions to be answered, but like they're not bad questions. I think they're just like competition questions, which is exciting. So yeah, that's my takeaway.
All right, let's look at the draft as a whole because there was other teams that picked in Green Bay this past weekend. Just looking at your biggest winner, it can be a team, it can be a player, it can be anything in general. I'll get it started. Maybe a hot take because I've seen some some hits and see some A's and C's for this team. I want to go the Tampa Bay Buccaneers because they are not afraid to make the big splashes. I was a little surprised they took Emeka Egbuka. I know Mike loved him, and was the draft dream target for the Packers if he was still available. But imagine their 3 wide receiver sets. I mean, Baker Mayfield is going to be just thrilled. With Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and Emeka Egbuka, and they run a lot of 3 wide receiver sets. So I think they all 3 complement each other extremely well. So this is addressing not only the future, but this could be a very dangerous passing game this next year. I know they got some big hits of not focusing on defense on day 1, but I think then coming back and taking Benjamin Morrison and Jacob Parrish in day 2, I think they've both been floated around as, potential first and second round picks, if, health and things like that. And then the late flyer with Tez Johnson. I know he's had some legal stuff come up, and he's very small in terms of being an NFL player, but I think they could have a lot of fun with him in an offense of being that gadgety guy and special teams. So I really liked what Tampa Bay did. I think Emeka Egbuka is a great pick for them just to make a strength even stronger, and they could be certainly the team to beat in the NFC South on paper. So they're my big winner is the Bucs.
Yeah, I kind of had 2 that I really liked, the Panthers and the Cowboys. And full disclosure, I'm kind of basing this like just on the number of players that I recognize by name that got drafted to each team. I'm no like draft expert or scout by any means, so I kind of just went by like the number of players that I recognized getting drafted to each team. Ted McMillan obviously going first round to Carolina. Lathan Ransom in round 4, the safety out of Ohio State. I know he kind of been talked about as like the key catalyst of that whole defense that they had last year. Jimmy Horn Jr., the wide receiver from Colorado, getting him in round 6. He's probably taking kind of a backseat to Travis Hunter, but obviously another very talented player out of Colorado. And then Dallas getting Tyler Booker. I know, Riley, you were really big on him. We talked a lot about Donovan Ezeraku, the edge from Boston College, and corner Siobhan Revel out of East Carolina. I think he was considered probably one of the top corners in this class, and they got him in round 3. So I kind of like what those 2 teams did.
Yeah, I had 3 that I really liked. I think my big winner, my number 1, which pretty generic. I think everybody's talked about this on every sports network is the Patriots. I mean, they just bought in on Drake May's the guy, and they put guys around him. They got their left tackle of the future. I think Jared Wilson, the center they drafted, I talked about him as the guy I wanted the Packers to draft with how athletic he was. I think he's going to step in and be their day 1 center starter, so that's 2. I think Travion Henderson is going to be a split guy with how the NFL is going. They have Ramondre Stevenson. Now they have Travion Henderson, so they kind of have a thunder lightning thing similar to what the Lions have right now. And then they got Kyle Williams, which I think was one of the sleeper receivers. I mean, the highlight they kept showing of him is him just absolutely fucking cooking Travis Hunter. His releases are insane. So teams are going to, again, they're going to have to pick. Are they going to go one high against the Patriots and try to stop the combination of Ramondre Stevenson and Travion Henderson? Or are they going to play too high? And Vrabel obviously is a very good coach, and he has no problem running the ball 50 times a game. So I think how they drafted sets up perfectly for being young up front, and then the future as well, just for what they want to do. Couple others I'll hit on. I liked what the Steelers did. They just went fucking strictly Big Ten. They got 2 defensive tackles. I think Harmon's going to show up and be a starter. Black out of Iowa, it's like 6'6", 350, just absolute run stuffer. He'll be their 3rd guy. Obviously, I don't know how you can't like Jack Sawyer. Obviously, he's going to step in to be the 3rd guy behind Highsmith and Watt. And then obviously later on, Will Howard. I like him. I think I'd probably put him as my 3rd or 4th quarterback in this draft. So I'm assuming Aaron Rodgers is going to show up at some point in time, and I think that'd be a great mentorship for him. And the last one, I like what the Seahawks did early. We've talked about Gray's Cable. I think we all love him. I'm going to slap him right away, but he can do pretty much anything. Anamari, strong safety, kind of brings back the flashbacks to how Cam Chancellor used to be for them, same body type. So we'll see if they use him the same. I think they're going to, not exactly the same defensive system, but can be. I think Arroyo, the tight end out of Miami, is going to show up and just be a 10-year tight end for the Seahawks. He's an athletic freak. And then you drafted Jalen Milroe, which is the complete wild card. Can he be Lamar Jackson, or is he going to suck? I don't know, but just the potential to have him there, let him sit for a year and see how their quarterback room, if it works out or not. But him with the potential of being how good he could be if he figures it out and gets more accurate, I think is a big wild card and a big upside.
And how cool was he, like, in the players' lounge in the green room back there, of like literally dapping up every single player as he just sat there the first night, not getting drafted, but dude just always had a smile on his face as well. So I think that kind of showed a long way. On the opposite side of that, the biggest loser, I think this is going to be a surprise, and it's not even him himself. I think it's just like the idea of Shedeur Sanders and the whole Sanders family, of how they were just the entire talk. The first 2 days of the drafts, Mel Kiper just went berserk and lost his cookies there for a little bit, and the entire ESPN crew there of just going back and forth on his fall. I think it was a little ridiculous how far he fell. I think what his talent and what is there is, I think he was a day 2 pick. Like, I always thought he was a second or third rounder, maybe end of the first round. I did not see him fall into the 5th round. And then it didn't make any sense for the Cleveland Browns. They already drafted Dylan Gabriel, whoever it was, like earlier on, and now you're getting like, it just made no sense to me. Like, the entire draft experience of Shedeur Sanders, how it played out, of how far he fell, and then the team that drafted him. I don't know. I think it was just everything around him, of his father, the retiring his number when he was just a very, like, good college quarterback, just his persona and his fame and how he grew up. I think that just kind of outweighed what he actually was as a player. And I think, like I said, I think he was a second or third round pick as a player, but I think all the other BS just kind of outweighed it, and teams must not have liked it. I saw a rumor that an article that he didn't have an agent or traditional agent, which I think is a big deal, especially as a quarterback. I'm sure he had probably people in his corner that was linked to the Sanders family, so I'm sure that had something to do with it. I know he didn't have very good meetings, individual meetings with GMs and coaches, and came across other ways, but still, I think he is talented. So I think falling to the 5th round, and just the whole thing, it's not even Shedeur Sanders the player. I think it just, what it all became, I think, was kind of one of the big losers, and just all the drama and stuff that went into it. So that was kind of my big loser of the draft weekend.
Yeah, I actually didn't hate Cleveland's draft, but I have no idea what their plan is at quarterback. I mean, I think they have like 5 quarterbacks now on the roster. Kenny Pickett, Joe Flacco, now Dylan Gabriel, and Shedeur Sanders. Like, what's the plan here?
What a
do
room.
understand.
We might as well
I don't
throw
understand.
us 3. Let's just throw us 3 there and put our hats in the ring, huh?
Yeah, I mean, I thought Shedeur would for sure go before Dylan Gabriel. Like, don't get me wrong, Dylan Gabriel is a really good college quarterback, but I feel like Shedeur is probably better. But I mean, what do I know? I guess 2 teams that I kind of had picked out really quickly. I wasn't too high on were the Rams. They didn't have any first round picks. Terrence Ferguson out of Oregon, the tight end, I think he could be a pretty solid tight end. Outside of that, I don't really know too many other players. And then I'm just going to be a hater here. I'm going to be down on the Minnesota Vikings as well. Only 5 draft picks. I know Donovan Jackson, the guard out of Ohio State, we had talked about him quite a bit. He's pretty flexible. But outside of that, like, Vikings only had 5 picks. Your team sucks.
Yeah, I'm going to just mimic what Mike said. My team that I had the biggest loser was the Vikings, and not even solely because they only had 5 picks, which is part of it. But, like, yeah, Donovan Jackson, he's going to slide and he's going to start at guard. But the other 4 guys, like, they're literally just special teams at best. Like, why did they draft Felton in the third round? I mean, he's a speedster receiver. Like, he's not going to fucking play. The Vikings receiver room's already stacked. What are we doing? Why would you take him in the third round? I don't get it. Whatever. So yeah, that's just why. And then the other, Colin already kind of brought it up, but my biggest loser I had was Mel Kiper. Like, why was he so emotionally pressed? He was the only one that had Shador Sanders high. He wasn't. So I don't know what he was so pissed off about. And it was so obvious why he was falling. I think people viewed him as a backup, and then they didn't want to deal with the drama as a backup that he would bring. And I think everybody in the world understood that. It wasn't that deep Saturday when he went on his little rant after he finally got picked about how NFL coaches have no idea how to evaluate quarterbacks for the last 30 years. It's like, Mel, dude, you said Jimmy Clausen was going to be a Hall of Famer, and you've missed on plenty. Like, relax. Like, don't act like you're the best scout of all time. I just don't get why he was so emotionally just pressed about it. It was insane.
All right. Before we wrap up here and move on, biggest surprises. We can kind of keep it short and sweet here. I had two. I was surprised that the Jags had the balls to trade up and get Travis Hunter, but I absolutely loved it because I do think he is. I think we've heard the word unicorn and kind of that generational type kind of prospects that we haven't seen in maybe the last decade. And then how about the Bears going Colson Loveland over Tyler Warren at 10? Did not see that coming. Little surprised. I know some people had Loveland as the number one tight end at certain outlets. I just thought Tyler Warren fits what Ben Johnson wanted to do a little bit better, and I don't know. That was just a head scratcher to me and a little surprising. But those were my two big surprises of the weekend.
Yep, that was also one for me. You should have seen the Bears fans and reactions in front of me when they picked Loveland over Warren. They were completely flabbergasted. Like, they thought for sure it was going to be Warren, and it was like they almost didn't even know who Loveland was. But I think he's actually going to be a good pick.
He's a good player.
Honestly, I think he's going to be a really good player. Yeah, it was surprising in the moment. I also thought it was surprising that Will Johnson went down to the second round. I think he was kind of considered the second best corner in this class behind Travis Hunter. So maybe his medicals didn't quite check out very well for teams leading up to this. And this last point isn't really much of a surprise thing. It's more of a just shows how far the Wisconsin Badgers football program has fallen the last few years, with only 2 players getting drafted and both in the second round. It's pretty clear that they've fallen behind quite a bit in terms of talent level compared to a lot of the top teams in the Big Ten. So that was a little disappointing for me as a Wisconsin Badger fan to face that reality.
Yeah, I'll triple up on hating on the Bears. Walking to the school that next day on Friday with all those Bears fans, they were not happy about not taking Tyler Warren. All the teachers, kids, everyone, all ages alike. Another one the Lions always do this shit, just drafting random people that nobody has that high, and it'll probably work out. That's surprising. Patriots drafted a long snapper. When's the last time a long snapper actually got drafted? Is that ever? I don't remember that. I don't know, but I do not remember it. Other than that, I think the first round actually, there's question marks on medicals. Will Johnson, we just said. I think Mike Green falling was because, there was off the field stuff and everybody knew about it. And he wasn't, I don't know, maybe more to it, but it was never talked about. But I don't think there was anything really huge.
All right. And going off, Mike, what you were saying, Illinois only had 1 player drafted. It was a pretty good one. A little bit of a surprise, though, of where he went. Pat Bryant going to the Denver Broncos. So now when I watch Broncos games, with the wife, I have something to cheer for potentially because I do love me some Pat Bryant. So, all right, well that wraps up the NFL draft. So we'll keep talking about just kind of the implications that it has on the Packers here in the next couple of weeks on each side of the ball and kind of what the roster looks like on paper. But it is now time for the final drive, and we're gonna have a fun one. Just because it was so fun doing this on Thursday and a little bit on Friday and Saturday. I think every sports fan does this at your respective sport. and that is tailgating. So today, each of us, with really no rules, besides maybe being like in a yacht or something at, I don't know, and in a Giants game on just outside of right field. Maybe don't go too crazy with that. A fairly realistic tailgate setup of what your ultimate tailgate would be if you were hosting it, if you were a fan, if you were at the event. All three of us will go around, say our tailgates, and you can tell us how we did. Um, but I suppose I will get the party started here, literally. So here is my ultimate tailgate. Not gonna get too crazy. It's pretty on par with being in Wisconsin, just what I prefer. I don't like a ton of people. I like that like 10 to 12, like 15 max. Like I want to know everyone, or at least know of everyone. I think that's about the perfect size. If it's a little bit smaller and a little more intimate, I think that's fine as well. But usually like that 10 to 12, 10 to 15 range. Has to be a charcoal grill. Has to be. Gas grill is only for like certain situations. If charcoal is not allowed, or if it's like very, very inconvenient to have charcoal and you have to go gas, you go charcoal 100 out of 100 times. I don't care what you say, what argument you make, the food tastes better. It just kind of has that smoky naturalness to that. I'm going to go brats. There's a place in Green Bay called Pelkins Meats. They have over 80 different flavors of brats. So I'm going to grab about 5 or 6 different flavors for every single tailgate. Can be as simple as just normal brats, your beer brats, but they have literally everything. Jalapeno popper brats. They've got like Bloody Mary brats. I mean, they have like anything you can think of. They probably try to make into a brat. They're delicious. Get them on that charcoal grill. In terms of drinks, gotta have vodka. I don't care what. I'm not a have to have Tito's. Of course, I love Tito's, but really any vodka is fine with me. I'm not too high maintenance, but the vodka has to go with the Bloody Mary. Has to be spicy. All the fixings, pickles, cheese, meat. Got to get some orange juice there for the screwdrivers. Those are kind of the starter. That's how you start the tailgate. Don't get crazy. I used to be an IPA guy. The older I get, it just doesn't sit with the stomach too well. I can maybe drink like 1 or 2 nowadays, but you got to go to the Blue Yummies, the Busch Lights, quantity and quality. Give me a 30 pack for $20. That's going to last me an entire tailgate. Can pound those, 10 to 12 of them, still have a good time. So yeah, definitely going with the Busch Light. Games, bags, cornhole, whatever you want to call it. Got to have those there, but I'm more of a sit my butt on a chair, play some cards, play some dice, do a little drinking game, a little Mexican dice. Really, any cards is on the table, but I think that's just kind of the fun vibes. Music-wise, yes, Hardy needs to be on it. As you both know, I do love me some Hardy. Doesn't have to be every single song, but I kind of want that party-ish, kind of rocky, can go into country a little bit vibes. But yeah, Hardy's always a great listen to at tailgates. And just in snacks, nothing too crazy, to be honest. I'm shoving my face with like 2 or 3 brats and feeling pretty good with the stadium sauce, the sauerkraut, maybe some ketchup on there, mustard. But just some chips, salsa, chips and queso. Maybe get a little healthy, get a fruit tray on there. I think those are always delicious. I know they're a little bit more expensive, but I do love myself a fruit tray. And dessert, honestly, the Busch Light is my dessert. But if my wife is there, I want to make her happy. Get some cookies or some brownies, something simple. She wants to snack on that. So that is my ultimate tailgate. And let's be honest, it's probably pretty realistic. And you've probably been to one of my tailgates if you are listening, or even you too, where all those things are there. But that is my ultimate tailgate.
All right, it was tough. I was trying to decide when I envisioned this going to a Packers game or a Florida Gator football game. I settled on fuck the humidity in Florida. So my setting would be at a Packers game. I'm thinking like, mid-October. Colin knows I love being cold. But as I get older, and less fat than I used to be, the cold kind of kicks my ass if it gets too down there. So give me like a 45-ish day. To me, that's fucking spectacular. So I'd be in October sometime. I'm assuming maybe November, early November if we get lucky. I'd want it like morning of noon game. All right. Kind of what Colin said, smaller crowd, 10, 12 max. I know people I actually want to be around. Just, basic ass parking lot. Uh, I don't really care any of those places by the stadium. Um, Music wise, kind of variety. Just give me some country, give me some rock, give me some pop. Keep it a rotation. Songs I actually know, songs that everybody actually knows. I'm bringing the Blackstone. We're gonna go breakfast. Have the cake. I'm gonna have the pancake batter ready. Whip up some eggs. We can do bacon. We can do sausage. Hash browns. Just full on breakfast. Kind of like what Colin said. We got mimosa, screwdriver settings, Bloody Marys, tequila sunrise, whatever you're feeling. All basic breakfast type alcoholic drinks. I'm not the biggest beer guy, so I could really care less either way. I'll drink Busch Light if I have to. If I had to pick, I make everybody else happy. As it gets closer to game time, I'm gonna break out and have Scotcheroos for dessert.
Mm.
All right, I love Scotcheroos. Got to have them, and I'm also gonna bring a big box, which nobody's gonna understand this except for my Illinois listeners and Colin. Big fucking box of Mrs. Mike's for everybody to snack on. Mike, if you had it, you'd get it. It makes sense to you. We'll have to bring you sometime. Yeah, card games. Got to have a football there to play catch if anybody wants to do that. But yeah, it's pretty big and full breakfast theme. Nice, crisp fall weather. Packers game, noon game. That's mine.
What is Mrs. Mike's?
It's just like a super salty, just chip, but they're the best.
If you eat one, you eat about 40 of them or an entire box. So it's a slippery slope once you get started on those.
All right. So mine's gonna be similar to both of yours. Pretty basic thinking. Like Packers noon game, Packers late afternoon, probably. Gotta have brats and burgers. That's a non-starter for grilling. If there's any other meat you want, I mean, by all means, bring it. Ribs, whatever you're thinking. But brats and burgers are an absolute must. You gotta have some sort of like snack meat, like venison, snack sticks, something like that, and cheese and crackers to go with it. Gotta have the beer. Personally, I prefer Coors Light, but I'll drink any light beer pretty much. You gotta have screwdrivers, gotta have Bloody Marys. That's a given. You gotta have some chips or salty snacks. You mentioned salsa, queso, taco dip's a really good one. Beer cheese dip, I also really like a lot. Even better if it's homemade. You got to bring a speaker. You talked about music, but you got to bring a speaker for the music so it amplifies. So it's super loud. And then you got to bring yard games too. Two that I really like are cornhole and can jam. We were playing that quite a bit this weekend at the draft. So those are kind of my tailgating 101s.
Okay. Well, yeah, that's our ultimate tailgates. If we were to pick them and host them, I'm guessing Mike's gonna get those up on socials, on Facebook, on X. So give a vote on that. Real quick before we wrap things up, I know we didn't really talk about it, or didn't talk about it all. Isaiah Simmons, any brief words? He did sign a 1-year deal. He's a former top 10 pick. Super athletic coming out of the drafts. Is it worth anything, or is it just kind of, hey, let's see if he makes the roster first, and then we'll maybe talk to him, come preseason, week 1?
Yeah, I don't know how to feel about it. I kind of talked pre-show. Like, to me, it could potentially be like a fucking huge deal. With the Lions in our division, I know Ben Johnson is gone, but I'm assuming they're going to do a lot of similar stuff that Ben Johnson has done. So a lot of 12 personnel, meaning running back, 2 tight ends. The Bears obviously just drafted close to Loveland. They have Cole Kmet. They're going to do the same thing. Playing the Eagles, they're very run heavy, but they also will throw it, covering those tight ends. So if Hafley can figure out to get him to play to what he was drafted to, I think 8th overall, however many years ago. He's a linebacker size that ran a high 4.3. He's a freak. If he can get him anywhere near that, I think there's a very good shot that he wins that Sam spot. So being like the speed linebacker that plays in their base 43 personnel. so they can stay big. If those teams are going to go 12 personnel, they're going to try to run the ball. But and if teams go small, they get advantage and they try to do both. So he can cover a tight end, he can cover a running back out, obviously with that speed, but he also can be a true linebacker to stay active in that run game. So at the same time, he could literally get cut in training camp. We have no idea. He's been bouncing around, but I think if Hafley can get him to anywhere near what his athletic potential could be, it could be a fucking massive deal for how our division seems like they want to play.
Yeah, I like everything that Riley just said. I guess up to this point, he hasn't really panned out too much on defense wherever he's been, but I think he is kind of projected out to be kind of like a special teams ace as well if he doesn't fit anywhere in the defense. I know that's kind of been talked about a little bit, but I mean, like Riley said, hopefully they can find a spot for him on defense and let him do his thing and use his athleticism and speed and be a difference maker.
Make sure everyone hit that subscribe, hit that follow button. Another fun episode talking this awesome experience, the NFL drafts, maybe a once-in-a-lifetime thing this past week. Just a great, I think, overall results from the Packers and the rest of that area. But, make sure to keep sharing us. Like I said, we want to keep those listeners, keep that number rising. Get out to there as many people as possible. Let us know how we're doing. Give us a review. Anything you want to do. Any sort of interaction, we appreciate it. Spotify, Apple Podcasts. I think up on YouTube. Just keep repping the Dairyland Drive love and sharing it to everyone. But that's all. That's all that we're going to have on today's episode. Colin Talbert, Mike Schneider, Riley Ashe. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.
Love you guys.